All right, Bri, we're coming hot straight out the gate. This is all about honesty. This is your true self, your true basketball takes. I want to hear. Warriors come out of this game. They win. They tie the series at 2. 5 minutes left in this game. What were you thinking? Knowing this team the way that you do, how were you thinking that this game was going to go?
I was nervous throughout the whole game. I knew how much of a must-win game this was, and I expected more from them coming out of the gates. Steph brought it, but 5 minutes left. They were doing something whereas like Draymond and Looney in for offense or for defense, and then timeout, and then Poole comes in for offense. Like, to be honest, like I didn't have much faith. The Celtics seem to get all of their shots so easy, and if not, it's like a foul or they're going to the line. And I know we said last episode that we're not going to blame it on the refs, and I'm not going to, because the free throw discrepancy was only 19 to 15 in attempts, so it wasn't even that far off. But it just feels like the Celtics get their offense so much easier because they're athletes, like we said, and the Warriors just seem to have to work harder for like on both sides of the floor. So knowing that, I just was not. I didn't have much faith. I had faith in Steph, but when Draymond comes back in, it's a little worrisome. He had a great last 3 or 4 minutes when he came back in, though. He was awesome. And when Draymond plays well, we win.
Okay, so from that moment, now it wasn't 5 minutes. It was 5 minutes, 18 seconds left in the game. Marcus Smart just hits a 3. I think it was a corner 3. Celtics go up 94-90. From that point on, the Warriors outscore them to close the game 13-7. Boston didn't even score 100 points in this game. Now, the reason why I brought that up is because we're all keeping up with Warriors Twitter, and Warriors Twitter is one of the most bipolar things you could possibly follow. I get it. Like, we live and die with this basketball team just as a fan, but the going from this team sucks, fire everybody, Steve Kerr can't coach to save his life, to I can't believe we're 2-2 going game 5 in the finals. Life is great. Like the just the variation is so ridiculous. And I sat there and I was like, okay, what happens if they lose? If they lose, they go into Oakland. They probably win in Oakland, and then Boston will try and close out in game 6. And if they won, I was like, they have a legitimate opportunity to win a championship. So, and we're talking about a close game, 94-90. And that's the reason why I brought it up, is because that 4-point difference with this Boston team felt bigger than 4 points. It felt like, 8 points against the Mavericks, because the Warriors could score on the Mavericks pretty much at any point they wanted to. But on this team, on Boston, it comes a little bit few and far between. So I wanted to call that out, because the story of this game is we were very frustrated with Clay and Dre. Like, you and Ben, and Ben even mentioned, obviously Ben Cruz works for the Ringer, was on one of our shows. He was like, sorry guys, I didn't really reply too much to the chat because I was having a heart attack for 48 minutes. But you and I were sort of having a conversation, which is Boston is doing so many things to make Draymond invisible. And I don't know if it's strategic. I don't know if this team in particular is so hard for Draymond, or I don't know if the game has passed Draymond by. I don't think that, but they have really minimalized his, value to the game in the series. And everybody was so down on him. Same with Clay. Clay is bricking shots. He is trying to get himself hot, just trying and trying and trying. And it's just not happening. But the one thing that he kept doing that I was like, gosh, this guy just wants to perform so bad. He would miss a shot. He would come back on defense and he'd do this
Clap.
And I was like, okay, like he's trying so hard to stay in this game. Like he knows how much this is going to mean to, to everybody, to Steph. Like in a sense, it's almost like we can't let Steph down. Steph's playing so well. And in that, in our frustration with Clay and Draymond, as always, Warriors fans, as always, we took 30 for granted. And we forgot in that moment that he is not only the best player in Warriors history, but he's one of the top, however you want to say it, top 15 players in the history of the league. He is so valuable. And I don't know how he does it. He's the oldest guy out of those three guys, and he's the one who looks the youngest and plays the best and is still figuring things out. He's figuring out how to get beyond the length of this team. Steph Curry is putting his stamp on this finals, and man, it was just a joy to watch. I don't even know if I don't even know if I'm giving him enough credit, right? Like, just amazing. The guy is just amazing.
I 100% agree. With Clay, clapping his hands to try to get himself back in the game. What was pissing me off more about Draymond is that he started doing the head down stuff, like we criticized Jordan Poole for. And even when Jordan Poole would take like a shot a little too early, maybe Draymond didn't like it. Head down. And I'm just like, dude, that's just like not how you've, grown, how you've played this game. That's not your brand, is to head
down on himself. He was
getting so down on himself. Did we get a podcast tonight?
I think yes, because he sort of has to answer the whole thing of Kerr taking him out of the game, right? He's got to have a reason. He's got to have an answer. He's got to sort of talk himself through it. And I think that's why he has the show. So Mark Nobita said, Wiggins and Looney, we're not going to let Steph's incredible game go to waste. Wiggins is the second best player on the team tonight. He didn't shoot great. He shot okay. I think he shot pretty well from three, from what I remember. He was 2 of 3 very early. I'm going to check at what he finished at. Wiggins finished 2 of 6, so he missed the next 3 after going 2 of 3 early. But it was really the 16 rebounds. Mm-hmm. Those 2 putbacks on offensive rebounds were awesome. He only had 17 points, but he played 43 minutes, a high for both teams. Jason Tatum on the other side played 42-40. And man, Jason Tatum, this was probably his best game just on the effect on the court, because he was 23, 11, and 6. But again, did not shoot well. 8 of 23. A lot of that is on Wiggins. He shot better from 3, 4 of 8. But I don't know. Wiggins is proving his value. And you know what? The thing that we kind of talked about in one of the series is how they may have to make a decision on Poole and Wiggins. And Wiggins is kind of like, I hope you guys didn't forget what value that I bring to this team. And this is not a diss against Jordan, because I thought Jordan played pretty well tonight. He had his defensive lapses, and they were definitely hunting him when he was in the game, but he was confident. He was shooting. I liked some of those pull-ups. He could get that mid-range whenever he absolutely wants, because they're trying to protect the 3. They're trying to protect the lane. He could get those mid-ranges. So just great game by Steph. And the only thing that concerns me about this game, so Steph goes 40 minutes, 41 seconds on the messed up foot, 14 of 26 shooting, 7 of 14 from 3, 8 of 9 from the line, to go along with 10 boards, 43 points, 10 boards. He's a plus 11. Though Looney and Wiggins, plus 21, plus 20 when it comes down to it. I don't know. I just don't know if does he have that 3 more times? Can he get to that level? Because he's obviously playing on a lot of adrenaline, a lot of emotion. You saw him fired up early on. He was yelling at somebody in the crowd, or maybe it was just the crowd in general for the FU Draymond stuff, because that's his boy. But Steph was fiery than usual, more fiery. He's yelling at the refs. He's pumping his fists like very early on. It was a little, we're not used to that from him. We're used to that late in the game where he lets his emotions out. But Yeah, I just hope that, he's got 3 more in him, and if he's got 3 more in him, I think the Warriors are in all 3 games if it goes to 7.
Yep. And, you said that it's the decision between Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, and I'm known to jump the gun on a lot of things, jump to conclusions, and, I'm usually right in the sense of the decision making it comes to, so far at least, since I've been doing this. Like, remember when I said, I think DeAndre Ayton might be out of here like pretty early, and now it kind
Yeah.
of feels like he's out. Like, I wonder if the decision between Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins is now turning into the decision between Jordan Poole and Draymond Green, or Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green. We
Right.
might be jumping the gun, but I wouldn't rule that out of the picture, even though,
Jordan
again,
Poole for DeAndre Ayton. Who says
straight
no?
up, who says no? But yeah, amazing Steph game. Can he do it for 3 more games? I hope so. I genuinely think that the Celtics have the better team. I just think that we have the best player by far. So, like, 2015.
We mentioned in the beginning of this series that experience should matter. It should count. And in the first 3 games, it didn't really matter that much, at least as far as my eyes could see. But it really mattered in this game because the Warriors got that little bit of lead. They finally overcame the fourth quarter curse that Boston has on them, which they have on Boston in the third quarter for whatever reason. And Steph had the ball, and it was like, okay, we're up. They're missing threes. We got this. This is what we do. And I think it was the first time all series that I thought, yeah, this is kind of that gold-blooded, right? The championship blood, the experience, the 3 rings, the guys who have been here before. This is the first time I felt that all series long. And it was going to take the crazy game in Boston with, the loud, crazy loud fans and, the yelling at Draymond. And unfortunately for Draymond, like, I don't know. He didn't answer that bell. I'm sure he's going to get at least for the most part, he'll get the cheers at Chase, maybe unless he plays bad
I
again.
know.
But
Jeez.
I think the fans got his back. As frustrated as they are, or as they could be with him, ultimately, you don't win 3 titles without Draymond. And if you remember 2016,
I know.
they're up 3-1, and then he gets kicked out. And he really tried to make amends for that, right? Because he's the best player
In
in
game
game
7.
7 at home. He's the one who's having the good game, and it's, these other guys who aren't playing well. So
Have we had that type of Draymond game since 2016 game 7?
I feel
Wasn't that like a
like
30-plus point game?
Yeah, I feel like he played pretty well in one of those Toronto games when KD got hurt. He had to play well, but he's just not that player anymore,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And you can't sort of expect that to come back because I think some of it is youth, some of it is the athleticism, some of it is just the beating that his body has taken. And I remember I don't know if you follow Nate Jones on Twitter, but Nate Jones, he's a really smart guy. I don't even remember how I found him, but he works with Dame Lillard, and I think he's been working with Dame for a while. But he also has this company. I think Dame is involved in this company where it's for inserts for your shoes and stuff. But anyways, Nate is a marketing guy, and I very clearly remember this. He said, when Draymond was, the best defense player in the league, so we're talking 2015, 16, 17, right in that range, he said, the unfortunate thing about Draymond is the second he loses a half a step, his game changes, because what is so great about him is not only is he strong, not only is he smart, but he's also very quick for his size. And I think we're seeing that now. He has definitely lost a step, and sometimes he's got to cheat in some ways. And not to make this about Draymond, but the other thing that I kept thinking about today, you remember the Jalen and Jacoby podcast that we used to listen to all the time when you and JJ were in high school. So when LeBron left the Heat, D Wade was kind of on the descent down, right? And Jalen Rose said, what's D Wade's nickname? And David Jacoby said, Flash. And then Jalen Rose said, I think we're going to have to change it to Flashes because we only see that guy in flashes. We don't see him all the time. And so with both Dre and Clay, I was thinking about that a lot. Like, how much of this is the fact that we just remember these guys for who they used to be, and they could still be valuable on this team, but we're sort of comparing them to the 2016 and the 2017 version of themselves,
Well,
which is because of 30, right? 30
yeah.
is the same guy, and those two guys aren't the same guy.
I just think that with Clay, I think that might be jumping the gun just because, everyone always says it, but it's true. The two major injuries, the two worst injuries you can get in basketball, ACL, then Achilles. Like, I still think he needs some more time, like a full summer of like working out, like when's the last time he's had a full summer of just getting to play and work out? Like, he hasn't had that since they drafted James Wiseman, and then he tore his Achilles right before that.
Okay,
So
well, here's a question though. Is KD the same athletically as he was before the Achilles tear?
no. No, he's not. But I don't know. KD's the main focal point of a defense. So I think if they can exploit that, then sure, maybe he isn't the same player that he was. But with Clay, he's like now becoming second and third option. If all he needs to do is just play, semi good defense, obviously he's moved to guarding wings more than guards like he used to. But if all he needs to do is like hit shots, like I've when they look at all the players that have had this injury, it seems like it's more on the defensive side that they lose a step. Clay's not totally relying on athleticism; he's relying on shot making and the ability, I guess, to move his feet laterally because he's trying to guard guards. But if he's guarding wings now and he just still gets to shoot threes, we're not completely relying on him to shot create, but. I think he'll still be fine. But with Draymond, like you say, like we're relying on his 2016 version. I'm relying on first half of the season, Draymond. That guy was a defensive player of the year by far until he went down.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not too much to ask for.
Look, he had a really good first half. I think the thing, it's just the intensity in these games, especially on the defensive side.
It just wears down on the older guys.
Well, also it wears down on the guys who can't shoot because I don't know if we'll talk about this in a second, but Boston was guarding him in a way that was so disrespectful, and they couldn't take advantage of it. We'll get to that in a second because I want to get to our second point here. I don't know if this even meant anything. Looney goes to the bench to start the game. Porter is the 4, is the long ball 4. Draymond is the 5. Was there anything to it? Because they very quickly went back to their starting lineup. So if I guess and their closing lineup, right? Because they were closing with these guys at least defensively, and Poole would come in when they could sub out Draymond offensively to get to get the 4 shooters plus Looney in there. But did this affect the game in any way? I don't feel like it did. I feel like it was a change for the sake of change. And maybe if you run this back, 100 times, maybe there's a few instances where Porter just goes off and the offense is clicking. But I don't know. I didn't really see the point unless it meant Draymond was going to play a little bit less. And I'm looking at the minutes. Draymond played 32 minutes, so maybe that's a few minutes off. But it's not like it's not like Porter picked up those minutes. Porter only played 14 minutes. GP only played 10. Jordan Poole played 20. Bielitsa played 9. And oh my God, 3 of those minutes almost lost them the game. And that's not only him, it's sort of the rotation around him. When Kerr put him in and then he couldn't get out on that 3 and they hit the 3, I was like, okay, take him out now. Like it didn't work. It absolutely didn't work. And Kerr stayed with it for like 2 more minutes and then they're down 5. Thankfully, we had Steph. Ooh, that if they lost that game, I think, the Marcus Thompson question would have been, if you could take those Bielitsa minutes back, would you? Because I that was possibly the game right there. But
are you calling him the Verjao minutes in 2016?
The Verjao minutes. There were others, right? There were other people.
Was it Festus or the lack of Festus minutes?
Well, in 16, it was no Bogut, so they had
Oh
to go
yeah.
Festus, and then LeBron was just like, "Oh, Festus, come over here, guard me one on one." Yeah, I mean, but I wonder what do they do in game? What do they do on Monday? Do they go back to the same starting lineup? Do they start Porter? Do they start Poole instead? I thought that was going to be the move because I thought, okay, if Steph is a step slow, you bring the extra ball handler in, and maybe that helps. But it absolutely they didn't need him. Steph was fine. He was, I'm sure they gave him some medicine for that foot before the game started. But geez, that dude was you couldn't even tell he was hurt.
I know. And with the Otto starting, I feel like it was just to get offense. And Otto had like two really good looks that he just couldn't convert on. And, he had an awesome game one. Like he had a rough stretch at the end of the regular season where he stopped being able to hit threes. And we're like,
I
dude, your
know, it
whole
was
career,
weird.
you've been marketed as a
It was
3-point
so
shooter.
weird.
And then he picked it up in the playoffs again and was becoming some knockdown shooter again. So I get the move on offense.
Yeah.
He has two open threes. That's 6 points right there that, were wide open for the taking from him. But yeah, they quickly brought back Looney. I don't know what they do with the starting lineup. I texted in my chat today with my friends, and I said that, we'll see what they do today. Maybe it's changing the starting lineup, but I highly doubt it. And then boom, starting lineups changed. So I don't know what they do. What I do think, though, I don't know if this is off topic or not, but I felt that when Boston, okay, so I know we've been saying that Boston plays drop coverage. Drop coverage is more like when the big drops into the paint. The Al Horford or Rob Williams aren't dropping to the paint. They're doing like a high
They're
screen,
essentially dropping behind the 3-point line
like a
slightly.
step, maybe
Yeah.
like a step.
Yeah.
It's because they're having to run like such high pick and rolls. But if Boston doesn't blitz Steph and they're just playing this alteration of a drop coverage, I think that's where Draymond is a little ineffective because I like Draymond most. Obviously, he's good with, swinging the pass around and finding the right cutter and stuff. But I more like him in that decision-making role when it's pick and roll. They blitz Steph. Draymond gets open to the basket. Now it's 2-on-1 offense.
Yep.
Draymond and say
Yep.
Looney. I think that's where Draymond's best.
Yeah, we talked
And
about that during the Memphis series.
yeah,
Like
totally.
that's exactly what we wanted to see them do.
And Boston, because Steph had 40, they started blitzing him at the end, and then Draymond becomes effective because he gets that 2-on-1 situation. I still think he was hesitant to shoot even a layup, but he was able to find Looney, and I think he had another good offensive rebound play. But we'll see because I could see this. I don't know, man. Steph just keeps going off. Are you just going to keep letting this guy go off and hope you replicate that same offense? And
You
on
know,
the Celtics side,
you know what? If this game was at Chase and the crowd was a little different, because we know the crowd can affect referees and sort of their anticipation to stuff. Steph would have got at least 2 or 3 and ones on the 3-pointers, and he would have probably been he went 8 of 9 from free throws, and a lot of that was late. He would have put up 50 in Chase in the same game in the same plays just because of the
you get
hometown
the home
crowd.
whistle.
You get the home whistle, and so I think that bodes well for Monday. Because if he comes out to play and he looks like he is a man possessed, I think they're going to get a good whistle on Monday. So,
And what I
okay,
will say about the Celtics, though, is I think you mentioned it with, experience. Should experience matter? Tonight it mattered. I think experience matters where, Tatum's feeling it, right? And those shots where it's like, okay, the Celtics just made this really big defensive play. If they get it in transition, that's just a killer, right? Like, those specific shots where some shots mean more than the other, regardless of the score, just because you got the crowd momentum and you're at home.
yeah,
I feel like Jaylen Brown sometimes just decides to just try to bully his way in and just loses the handle. Boom, turnover. That's lack of experience from him. Marcus Smart on the same direction just chucks up threes when they have that advantage. It's like they sometimes don't know how to feed the hot hand, which might not go well in their favor.
It's a great point. I told you that the last game I thought it was a winnable game because certain things happened that I'm sure Boston fans didn't necessarily want to see. Marcus Smart, he hit a couple big threes, right? But what about the ones that he missed? He was 3 of 9 tonight. He had he was a minus 17. Jaylen Brown, like you said, there were a couple turnovers, but when I look at the box, He only had 2. You know how many Jason Tatum had?
No, I don't.
He had 6 turnovers tonight.
Hmm.
So Boston had 15. The Warriors had a good share of their own. They had 16 turnovers, and Steph
How
had
many did
5 of
Steph have?
those. Yeah, he had
Yeah,
5.
okay.
So yeah, I think I definitely understand that. Something else that is is such an interesting stat. So Derek White was 3 of 5 from 3, and he was 1 of 7 from 2, which is kind of weird. It's just like a weird stat. But Jason Tatum 4 of 8 from 3, and he's 4 of 15 from 2, and 3 of 5 from the line. So I don't even know, I don't know enough. I didn't watch enough Celtics. I know when I'm watching the Warriors against the Celtics, my feeling is when Jason Tatum settles for a fadeaway, even when he
Mhm.
makes them, I'm like, okay, I can live with that. The thing that's so hard is when he uses that long stride to get close, and he's got these, these very creative ways to score. That's when I'm like, this guy's unguardable. Jaylen Brown is not as talented, and so he doesn't have all of those different ways, and he's not as long. But I feel less comfortable with him putting his shoulder into somebody and getting to the hole. I just think he's going to score every time, and he doesn't. But still, he was the 9 of 19 shooting versus Tatum's 8 of 23. I still feel like he's the guy that hurts the Warriors the most, just because he can get a bucket. He can get a hard 2 when the defense is perfect. He can just, because
Mhm.
he's so physical. So he's still the guy that I fear the most, even as talented as Tatum is.
Well, because you look at it, Tatum, I think Tatum's best games were games 2 and 4, and that's the only 2 the Warriors have won out of the 4. So you might be onto something.
Robert Ramos checking in. He was on baby duty tonight. He's got a very young. I guess she's not a newborn anymore, but she's infant. I guess she's several months old. She was born during the football season, so maybe she is more than a few months old. So the other thing that the Warriors had a short bench today. They played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, they did play 9 players, but Peyton and Bielitsa only played 9 minutes each.
No Iguodala.
No Iguodala. And we were talking about this earlier.
They're
No
not playing, man.
Kuminga, no Moody. And
They're
if there was a game to try them, maybe if maybe if the game had gotten a little bit, what was the largest differential in points in this game? Like, what was Boston's biggest lead? It didn't feel like it was very large.
I don't know
I'm
how to
trying
look
to
this up
think.
either.
Yeah, I wish this stuff was easier to find. Let's see. Can I see it? Okay, so the lead changed 11 times, and there was 10 ties, but it doesn't tell me.
It feels like it was around like 8 to 11 is what I would guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you know the Warriors won the second half 58 to 43? Did it feel like a 15-point?
Mm-mm.
It didn't feel like that, huh? A lot of that was the late free throws.
Yeah.
But okay, so my next point here is technically my last point. So late in the game, Kursich, Draymond for offense. And Boston treated him like the Warriors treated Tony Allen in 2015. They didn't guard him. And there were moments where he was like just in the way on offense, because there was no defensive player near him. And so he was just like, where do I go? Like, I don't know what to do here. And unfortunately for Draymond, I think that really messed with him. He was I it's a rare occasion where you see his bravado, where you see his ego hurt in the way that it was today. He couldn't do anything, missing layups. Defensively, Jaylen was kind of, one-on-one move, boom, fadeaway, boom. And those are, usually they used to say, this is a Fitzgerald thing. He used to say, I don't know why anyone goes in the post against Draymond. It never works out. And Jaylen Brown was like, I'll show you how good I can do in the post here. And so, he was so down. And I will give him credit. He kind of he could have gone the other way, right? There could have been a foul that didn't go his way. There could have been an offensive play where he screws up and then he's going to go crazy because he didn't get a foul call or whatever. He could have gone that way and the game could have gone away from him. But he didn't. He sort of accepted what was happening and was like, okay, I just have to figure this thing out. Now, offensively, he didn't. He was still like 1 of 7, I think, from the field. Is that right? He was 1 of 7 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3. He does end up with 9 rebounds and 8 assists. And the 9 rebounds, there were some clutch rebounds in there because obviously, as we know, Al and Robert Williams and Tatum, they're very long. Tatum ends up with 11. Robert Williams ends up with 12. Robert Williams played 31 minutes. Wow. He was a +6 for Boston. He was the best guy in the plus minus. And so, battling these big and long guys, you had Looney. Looney pulled 11. Draymond pulled 9. Steph pulled 10. Wiggins pulled 16. So these guys were battling, and I will give Draymond credit, even though, like we said, he was a little frustrated. He was down. He sort of accepted that and was like, okay, I have to play better in this fourth quarter. And he was getting out on Jaylen. He was making things uncomfortable for Jaylen out on the perimeter, just kind of like being a nuisance. And he was being that version of Draymond that we needed him to be. And he accepted what happened. In another version of Draymond, I could see him being frustrated coming out of the game when Kerr pulled him out of the game, but he accepted it. He was probably a little relieved in a sense of like, okay, good, I don't have to shoot. And do you remember late in the game, Steph has the ball, Kerr, pass it to Clay. There's like 20 some odd seconds left in the game, and Steve Kerr calls a quick timeout. And my friend, Mary Walton, she tweeted, she's like, why did Kerr call that timeout? And I just responded, I was like, the only open man was Draymond. Nobody wanted Draymond to shoot those free throws if he got fouled. So it's like Kerr saved him to call that timeout. And okay, let's come back and do this again. But yeah, I give him credit, though he played bad. He's got to step it up. If he plays as poorly as he did in game 1 and game 3, it may be tough to win this series. If he plays like game 2, they got a shot. And if he plays like in the fourth quarter of game 4, they also have a shot. What did you think about how Kerr handled Draymond late?
I think it was the right call. I hope Draymond, I think Mark Jackson was saying on the broadcast that if Draymond does his podcast, he's going to address it and he's going to say, if I was coaching, I would have taken myself out too. That kind of cliche BS, but
he's also
Mr. Self-Aware. We know.
Right. We mentioned that, but he's also honest in a sense to where he's not going to say he played great if he didn't believe he played great. Look, there is something to that. Now we kind of made fun of him, his self-awareness last show, but there is something to being able to look yourself in the mirror and go, okay, I didn't play well, because, and not just for the media, right? And I think what you're saying is some of it is he's doing it for the media so that they know that he knows, but some of it is also you got to look in the mirror and accept it and go, okay, now how do I fix that? And he didn't fix that for 3 quarters. Some of, the coaching, maybe it's the coaching. Maybe we'll see a great story from Kawakami about how, Kerr had a heart-to-heart with Dre or whatever it is, but that was the right move. And it helped him play better. So I don't know if that was the intention, but it also helped him play better.
Yeah, and I would rather have a self-aware player like Draymond who understands when he has bad games than say like Kelly Oubre Jr. on the Warriors probably looked himself in the mirror after every game and thought he was the best player on this team. Like, yeah, that guy would just shoot like he was Stephen Curry. But I would rather have the more self-aware guy. But no, that was my issue. Can we get to a point where we don't have to be apologetic for playing bad? Like, can we just finally, have a game 2, have
just
a
play
fourth
well.
quarter of this game, just play well, dude. Like,
Yeah.
And I'm gonna keep tacking on to. I think I'm right that Draymond's still a good connected playmaker. When they swing it to him and he swings it over, finds the open cutter, that's all great and dandy. But if they don't blitz Steph, I do feel like he's not as effective.
Okay, so Jeff Van Gundy made a point that I was like, it was just me watching the game. I was being vocal whenever they cut or whenever they drove to the rim. Robert Williams was gonna go block hunting, and if Draymond just cut in the middle of the key, he could have had some easy dunks, right? But he's watching because he doesn't want to be involved in the mix. He doesn't want that basketball in his hands anywhere near the rim. Draymond himself has to think of, even if, I just have to try and forcefully dunk this thing. And if I get fouled, I get fouled. No big deal. But he doesn't have to try and get creative around the hoop because Robert Williams is out of the play. Who's going to block his shot at that point, right? So I was the first time that happened, I screamed at my TV like, Draymond's got to cut. And then JVG said the same thing. And they said it again, which I thought was like, yeah, like unless the idea is that Draymond's got to stay back for some reason, then whatever. But I don't think that's the case. I think he's just apprehensive around the hoop. He doesn't want the ball there. This is the perfect way for him to get the ball there, though, because he's just going to have dunk finishes. And that's how he's going to get into it, right? He's going to get some dunks. He's going to start beating his chest. He's going to start flexing, and he's going to start getting in the rhythm of the game. By not attacking the basket, he allowed himself to stay on the outside and to stay apprehensive, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, and I also think that Wiggins wasn't totally looking to pass. I think, when we got Brad Wanamaker, this is completely off topic, but he was a Celtic. He was a Celtic. I remember listening to Warriors Plus Minus, and they were trying to get intel on the guy because, no one really knew much about Brad Wanamaker. I knew he was on the Celtics. I knew he was like a backup point guard or the third backup point guard. But the intel that you get from watching tape on Brad Wanamaker is that he gets tunnel vision when he drives to the lane. And that was totally true when he joined the Warriors. But I thought that Wiggins and Poole were just trying to sometimes, and even Draymond, I think whatever accumulated of Robert Williams blocks, I think it was everyone who was just like, we need to get a shot up. We're not attacking the hoop. Let's try to draw a foul. And everyone was just having tunnel vision. Like, I don't think Wiggins was even looking for the Draymond cut. I think he was just like, I got to shoot it. Like, I got to try to get a foul. I got to do something here. So
yeah, some of it was late. You're right. Some of it was like really late in the shot clock too. Well, as we look forward to Monday, I'm kind of interested in what your outlook is for Monday. What do they need to do to continue to continue the momentum from today?
God, it's not game 6, it's game 5. I was gonna say Clay, but didn't he have he had a big game 5 against Dallas? So
Dallas, yeah.
I mean, we've won 2 games now that weren't Clay games. That was more of Steph and Poole. I don't know who the second highest leading scorer was. Was it Wiggins with 17?
It was Clay had 18.
Oh, Clay had 18.
Clay was
shot awful.
Clay 4 of 10 from 3. He hit a couple late.
That's not awful, but yeah.
Other than that, he was 3 of 7. 3 of 7 from 2.
What do we do? Like, I don't know. It's Steph carrying, man. He's just I haven't been shown by anyone other than like Andrew Wiggins that someone else can be like consistent in this series. So, you could hope. I could hope for a good Clay game. I could hope for, Jordan Poole to show up. I guess I could really try to hope for Draymond to show up, but I think it'll be more than the same, and it'll just fall in our hands if, depending on different factors, maybe depending on how the Celtics turnovers look or how, they, like I said, they rush some shots on some probably very important possessions that they shouldn't be rushing shots on. I can't think of anything for the Warriors. I'm sure Steve's thinking of something. This is why I'm not a coach. I'm still going to push for Kuminga and Moody. I think Game 4 was the game to try it, but I'm not ruling it out of the picture for Game 5. If it doesn't happen Game 5, though, it's not happening ever. But yeah, well, I'd be interested to think. Well, what do you think?
I think Draymond needs to have a little bit of a come to Jesus meeting with himself. He is not going to be effective as this really passive player. He can look at the box score and say, "Oh man, 7 shots, I missed 6." They weren't good shots. That's the problem. He can do so many more things if he trusts his offensive game. If he sees himself coming downhill, he's got a floater. It's not the most beautiful floater in the world, but it goes in. He's not going to shoot that 3. They're daring him to shoot the 3. That's unfortunate because he just, for whatever reason, he cannot pull the trigger on that thing. And I think it's playing with his head. But, if I'm him, I would say attack, attack, attack. If you got to shoot, 3 or 4 runners, like shoot them, because what's going to happen is as Draymond has the ball, they're going to be looking for him to pass. And I think he's going to see some lanes that he wouldn't necessarily see just because of the way the Celtics are playing him. And if he's just aggressive, he may get a foul call. If he tries to put somebody into the rim, he may get a foul call. But if he's going to try and lay it up and, he's going to try and bounce into contact, that's exactly what they're watching for, because they don't think that he can get there. He just needs to play the game straight. He's not going to be able to attack Robert Williams. We know that. But what he could do is he could get Robert Williams to notice him, and he could get far enough in the lane and get creative around the bucket and then find an open shooter. That's what he's good at. But he's not willing to get that far. He's so scared to get in the middle. He's passing it before he's even making the defense react. So I think that's number one. Number two, I think we need a good Jordan Poole game. We had the B- to B Jordan Poole game today. 6 of 13 from shooting, only 2 of 7 from 3. But at least he was confident. This is the game for him to get comfortable, for him to get confident. It's at home. There should be some a momentum high off of this game. I think he's really got to attack, because even if he misses, right, there's nobody else to attack other than him and Steph in some of these situations. We know what Klay's going to do. Klay's going to hunt for his shot. But if Klay attacks, it's almost like they're just willing. They're like, okay, you attack, because you're going to spin yourself into some fadeaway that's a really hard shot no matter what. And ultimately, it's going to be Steph's game. I think he's going to he may not have to play this well, but I think he's going to have to pretty much be the this is usage rate Steph, right? We're not used to seeing usage rate Steph in this way. He's got the ball all the time. They're running so many pick and rolls. You would think that, maybe he's going to be tired, but they got a couple of days off here. So, there's 2 days off. He can, I think he's, they always talk about his conditioning. So I just think if this team thinks that Steph's going to save their butt every time, we might be looking at 3-2 going to the other court. This is a must-win game, though. We talked about this in the beginning. My biggest fear was them splitting their first 2 home games, because I really wondered if they could win one in Boston, and thankfully they did. Now they get the home court back. Game 5 is must win. They have to attack this game like it's must win. And it's there were some leaky things about them in game 3. I don't know if they filled those holes, but at least they got the performances they needed. They desperately need game 5, because you have to give yourself a shot to come back in game 7. That is what you're ultimately playing for. And you get there by making sure you win game 5.
I got Warriors game 5. I think on the BAM pod, I try to be objective. So I said that Celtics game 3, Warriors game 4, Warriors game 5, Celtics game 6, Warriors game 7. So I do have the Celtics winning in game 6, which could be trouble, but like you said, I wonder if there's a way that you could pull Robert Williams out of the paint. Is there a way that we can get like Jordan Poole to go pick and roll, get Rob and just dart to the corner, make Rob guard him there, and then Steph just tries to do something there? I don't know. That's a thought, but I'm sure it's not that easy because they do these like quick off ball switches.
You know who could do it?
Draymond.
Well, you get Steph and Looney at the top, pick and roll, and so Robert Williams has to come out on Steph, and you get some Jonathan Kuminga back cuts to the rim. That's how you do it.
Oh yeah, I'm keep saying that. I'm with it too. You said something. Oh, I think it would have been a Jordan Poole B+ game had he not gotten his third foul before the half ended because he was kind of on a roll there.
He almost played good defense too. Almost played good defense on that play. It was a step behind.
Yeah. But I think he was bound for a couple more points had he stayed in. I think we would have gotten a B+. So let's hope that he's fired up for Game 5.
I didn't hate that foul at all because he finally stuck his butt in there and tried to cut off a drive. I was so happy just to he did it. And now he's going to do it again. Okay, one more thing before we get out of here. I wanted to point out, we're talking about Clay's offense. He played a Jaylen Brown back cut almost to perfection at the end of the game. Jaylen Brown back cuts. Clay gets long. He makes it hard for Jaylen Brown to catch that bounce pass. Jaylen Brown takes it all the way to the corner. And for whatever reason, I think it was because he didn't know if he could save it or not, but he saves it, and maybe his momentum is falling a little bit, and he brings it up, and he just drops it out of bounds. And I don't even think Clay touched that ball, but that was great to see because when I saw Jaylen Brown make that cut, my first instinct was, that's a dunk. And then when I saw Clay catch up to him, and I don't know if he even deflected the ball, but he made it really hard for Jaylen Brown to catch. I was like, wow, Clay's instinct on that play was perfect. And it's kind of one of the things that the box score is not really going to tell you. And if you're not really watching for that kind of stuff, it's probably a play that gets a little bit, it's just not as. It's not a play that fans are going to go like, oh, that was a great play. It's just a little It's just underwhelming to, I think, the majority of the family. It's like, oh yeah, Jaylen Brown just dropped the ball out of bounds. No, Clay made him work on that play. These guys are tired. It's late in the game. I thought that's a really great play.
My last note is that, I think as fans, I'm not gonna make fun of someone's wife or someone's baby, but I feel like we need to fight a little bit of fire with fire. I live on a pretty busy street of San Francisco, so I'm thinking of, writing maybe that Grant Williams, isn't handsome, hanging up on my window, and then we're fighting fire with fire there, baby.
Grant Williams is his mama thinks that he's handsome, man. You're gonna hurt somebody's mom's feelings with that one.
I got to take a dig that shouldn't hurt, but then they think about it a little more. It's gonna hurt.
You think you talk about Grant Williams. What did he even do tonight? 12 minutes, 4 fouls. Like he was. I know a lot of people thought he played well in Game 3, and I guess to an extent he did. Even though
it was that lineup he was in, that double Williams lineup. That's kind of the one that started doing really well. So I think a lot of people put that to him being in there. But it was just Rob Williams is awesome. But yeah, the Williams connection tonight wasn't completely there. I wonder what Bill's gonna say because he was ready to go all in on Grant Williams.
Yeah, I mean they played Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard 12 and 10 minutes. They really only played 6 players for the most part. So that is interesting because they have really 7 guys that they trust, and Pritchard is sort of there. If he's going to hit a shot, then he probably plays a little bit more, and if he doesn't, then he's going to play only 10 minutes like tonight. They don't trust anybody else. That is one thing I think you can kind of look for a little bit is kind of how if Grant Williams plays well, it is probably going to be a pretty good game for them because otherwise they just overplay their top 6 guys.
And they can't play Tice. The Warriors will just salivate every time Tice comes in the game.
Yeah. All right. The Bam Pods, you guys, when's the next podcast?
We're doing a podcast every 2 games. We used to do for the playoffs started. We can't do after every game. I don't know why. Yeah. I don't know. We can't do it. But we were doing like a preview pod for the upcoming series. So like conference finals, we did a preview pod, and then we do like a mid-round check-in after both series have had their game threes, and then we'll do a recap. For this one, we've been doing every 2 games. So we've already done a preview, and then we've done a mid check-in after the second game, and then we're gonna do one after this game. So probably like
This
tomorrow
weekend
or the next day. Yeah.
All right. So we will not be back on Monday because I know you want to kind of go check out.
We'll see.
Chase
I'll
and
probably
everything.
only do it if I get like a couple people to come over. So I'll let you know.
But it's Monday, Thursday, and Sunday, I believe, from here on out. So those are the next 3 games. Essentially one more week of basketball, and the season is over. It's been a pretty insane season. This podcast was only really born during the playoffs. I didn't even think about really doing anything until the Warriors were in the playoffs. So BSPN and all that. And I was like, we can do some Warrior stuff. So, after the finals is over, we'll probably do like maybe once a week or something, but not as often. We need to get some people to talk to, though. We need to get some like writers. We need to get some people close to the team on the show. But all right, so that is it from here. It would have been a lot different story from us if they didn't pull this out, but Steph did not let them lose. He was amazing. Warriors win 107-97, heading for game 5 on Monday in San Francisco. For Bry, I'm Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.